gloves on. Let me get close to the microphone. First of all, we had a great meeting with the president and spent a couple hours with him. I have some of the great farmers actually standing behind me. We didn't even plan for this, it just happened. But really representing all the row crops from all across this country, those that we were focused on today with this new trade package. We talked a lot in there about really the crisis that is facing a lot of our farmers, losing 150,000 farms over the last number of years. Lots of problems to solve, but this president is so focused on it. This trade package that was announced, the aid package that was announced is a bridge to next year where we believe, again, the markets open up, the input costs come down, and the one big beautiful bill moves into effect. So with that, I'll take a couple questions, but great to be with y'all. Yes. Will you tell me who you're with?
Skylar Woodhouse, Bloomberg News.
That's right. Nice to see you, Skylar. Yes.
Nice to see you again. Can you just explain, President Trump had said that the relief package would be funded via tariffs, but there's been talk about using the CCC. Can you just explain how exactly that is going to work? Traditionally, the tariffs haven't been.
That's right. The tariffs we consider an offset. We are using CCC funds, so we have set aside $12 billion. We had to kind of move some things around, but we've got that $12 billion set aside. $11 billion announced today. $1 billion we're holding back for specialty crops. But as the president said today, he's open to more. We really are trying to be so judicious. Obviously, with the taxpayer funds, want to make sure that these farmers can survive. But as you've probably, a lot of you have seen that follow this, the minute you infuse funds from government checks into the farm economy, the farmers are still barely surviving, but inputs skyrocket: fertilizer, seed, equipment, etc. So really working to try to solve this from all aspects.
Secretary Rollins, is this bailout today an acknowledgement that the administration's trade policies are hurting U.S. farmers? And what would you say to U.S. farmers who are worried that China is not going to hold up its end of the agreements that the president was touting?
Yeah, so two quick things to answer your question. When we were out here earlier this spring, I think I came out and gaggled with a lot of you after the president announced Liberation Day, and starting then, almost immediately, I said this president is resolutely focused. If there is any evidence that trade is compromising these farmers' ability to sell their product, that we will ensure, just as he did in term one, negotiating China one, that we'll make sure that we are mitigating for that. The really interesting thing is, though, now that we're 8, 9, 10 months into this, there is almost zero evidence, if any evidence, that what they are doing and the challenges that our farm economy is facing in row crops has anything to do with these trade renegotiations. Instead, the input costs being so high based on the last administration and not one new trade deal in 4 years, those are really the two basically driving factors in why the farm economy is today what it is. So you'll see we pivoted from, we're going to do an aid package, assuming the trade has been extremely or potentially harmful, and instead now we're just going to support our row croppers based on those input prices, based on no new deals, as we continue to monitor trade. On the China soybeans, Secretary Bessent himself, a soybean farmer, I think at least till a couple of days ago, I think he just divested, has said, and the president has said and made very clear in that room, that China will meet their commitment. And so I have full faith in what they've said, and I'm very excited. I'm encouraged by that.
But as you know, they've failed before to live up to those agreements.
That's true, but it's a new day. I do not have concerns. I do believe that we will get there. 12 million, then 25 million, then 25 million, then 25 million metric tons. But it does go to the larger goal of opening up markets around the world so that we are not so reliant on China. So that's why we continue to focus on that.
I know that today the focus on row crop. I've spoken to hemp farmers in Kentucky and in West Virginia who are deeply concerned about the provisions that were tucked in the government funding bill. Does the administration back hemp farmers, and do you think those restrictions should be peeled back?
Well, we are looking at everything on that right now. We don't have, and I don't want to get in front of the president on that. He and I have spoken about it privately, but we're continuing to work that out. Listen, we're here to support the farmers. We want to support rural America, but we also want to marry that to the health of our country, and I think that's part of what we're trying to weigh.
On SNAP funding?
Go ahead.
Can you clarify, is it $11 or $12 billion package today?
Thank you for that. It is a $12 billion has been identified. Today we announced the movement of $11 billion, holding $1 billion back for specialty crops, which were not included in today's announcement.
And the $11 billion is the CCC? The $11 billion?
$11 billion from the CCC, yes. All $12 billion will be from the CCC.
Thank you, Secretary. On SNAP funding, you said last week that you were going to withhold funding to Democratic-led states for refusing to hand over private recipient data. Are you going to do that? What day are you going
So we are working through that, and I want to level set. This is not Democrat versus Republican, and it's not us being mean to Democrat states. This is those that responded to our letter this spring that we know there is so much significant fraud in the SNAP program that it is rampant, but up until now, the federal government had never asked states for data for ensuring that, you know, dead people aren't receiving it, or people using dead people's social security numbers, that people aren't getting it twice. And in response to that letter sent to every state, by the way, I do a monthly call with the governors. Democrat governors join too for the most part. But as a result of that, all the states that said, here's our data, were all Republican states. And when we got that data later this spring, that's when we found the 186,000 dead people and the 500,000 people. And these are in red states where arguably there's often more control and less spending on some of these government programs. So yes, we are very serious about this. We're continuing to work out exactly what that looks like. We'll be making another announcement on that probably early next week on what that looks like. But the message is this: just let us work together and figure out and ensure that these taxpayer dollars, $100 billion a year, 42 million recipients, that we're actually getting the aid to the people that need it the most and not to a system that's rife with fraud.
If you withhold that funding, though, would that be a violation of the San Francisco judge's order?
We're working all that through. There's so obviously much that we have to ensure that we're sort of checking all the boxes, and we're very serious about that. I'm a former practicing litigator. I understand the law. I've studied constitutional law. So we'll make sure that we're doing everything we can. But again, my hope is that these governors will step up and say, yes, we want to get rid of this fraud too. We understand there's nothing nefarious going on here. We just want to make sure that the people that need it are getting it, and that the taxpayers are protected in that. All right, y'all, thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you,
Thank
Secretary
you.
Rollins.
Thank you.